Thank you. Senator Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, all of you, for being here today. As I've discussed in this committee previously, remediating PFAS contamination in Arizona's aquifers is an urgent priority. And I was happy to be here during Senator Alsobrook's questions. I've got a couple more on the topic. In Arizona, in the face of long-term drought, groundwater remains a critical source of drinking water for so many communities across our state. And many of those communities even bank water underground to prepare for future shortages. But now we face a serious challenge from PFAS contamination in many of those aquifers. In Tucson, for example, PFAS has forced the city to shut down nearly 30 groundwater wells, resulting in more than $71 million in cleanup and treatment costs. So clearly, there is a problem here that we need to solve. CERCLA, as was previously mentioned, sometimes known as the Superfund law, has shown promise as a tool to address these challenges. Last October, EPA approved an Air Force plan to ensure safe drinking water and undertake PFAS cleanup efforts in Tucson, where my wife and I live, and my granddaughter lives. Under that agreement, the Air Force will work with the city of Tucson to investigate PFAS releases from nearby facilities, yet the Department of Defense is still dragging its feet, delaying this and other cleanups nationwide for years. Without CERCLA, though, these cleanups might not happen at all. So my question to each of you is CERCLA the proper tool to address our nation's PFAS contamination problem? And if it isn't, what authority should Congress leverage instead? We'll start with Mr. Gerstenberg.
Thank you, Senator Kelly. We believe that CERCLA is a good foundational tool to be able to address it in similar stances of the RCRA regulations that were put in 1976. We also believe that it is time to act. It is time to put thresholds and contamination levels in place by the EPA such that the bases that you were just referring to need to act so it just doesn't sit there and contaminating drinking water in the ground. And we believe there is a way to act. There is a safe way to manage, treat the water cost effectively and dispose of it and clean up these sites. But what we think those thresholds of contamination levels based on what that has been exposed to needs to be enacted and put in place so that Department of Defense military installations will act accordingly.
So CERCLA, you think, is the right thing. You just need the trigger to start using the tools that CERCLA provided. Ms. Pilconis.
Thank you, Senator. My comment is simple. Or similar. Contractors are on the front lines of cleanup and doing the remediation work. But for everyday infrastructure work and for the work that we're doing to repair and revitalize and rebuild our nation's infrastructure, they're incidentally encountering PFAS as a result of just doing that work. And CERCLA is making them potentially responsible for the full cost of cleanup because of the strict joint and several retroactive liability scheme. And right now, we have no lawful path to compliance. We have no numbers, we have no instructions or standards on how to dispose of material. We don't have restricted uses. We have no unrestricted uses. We don't know when we can reuse materials. So having the CERCLA scheme in place without having the proper roadmap to compliance, which we have with other hazardous materials, lead, asbestos, PCBs, we're in a very difficult and unique situation where contractors are exposed to extreme risk and liability. And contractors are touching soil and groundwater across America using many, many different landfills. So
it
our
sounds
risk
like you
is
think
exponentially increasing.
you think we need something specific to PFAS.
We need
Beyond
a lawful
CERCLA.
path to compliance.
Ms. Bowers.
Thank you, Senator. CERCLA is one tool in the federal legal toolbox to address PFAS. It is the broadest mechanism under federal law for requiring parties to perform or pay for cleanup actions. There are other enforcement authorities that are also available under federal law and may be applicable in particular situations. You mentioned the Tucson site, for instance. EPA, in addition to addressing issues under CERCLA at that site, has also taken action under the Safe Drinking Water Act. So that or other statutes may potentially be relevant. I would also note that statutes that focus on regulatory and compliance issues that establish permitting regimes and allow federal agencies or states to establish guidelines or requirements for entities that are potentially discharging PFAS into their environment as part of their operations, as well as statutes like the Toxic Substances Control Act that address manufacture and use of chemicals. These can all be relevant depending on what aspect of PFAS an agency is interested in addressing.
Well, thank you, Ms. Bowers. Again, thank you to the three of you for being here. And Madam Chair, I have a question I want to submit to Mr. Gerstenberg for the record, and thank you.
Will do. Thank you.